Hi everybody, welcome. I seem to be saying this every week for the past month, but I'm saying it again. The past week had been rough. My daughter went for her last 2 Code 10 driving lessons, and on Thursday she did the practical test, and thank goodness she passed. Poor Dragon Man is still sick and on his second course of antibiotics, but he's back at school. My car had to be re-registered and get new license plates, and that is now done after a bit of a struggle. But the lady at the traffic department took pity on us because with my daughter's license, the car registration and so on, we'd basically spent every morning all week there. Well, she helped us get everything sorted, and finally we were done by midday Friday. I put the new number plates and license disc on the car on Saturday. I'm not going to bore you with everything else we had to deal with this week, but I have to admit that there are some stunning people in this world. Stola, who helped my daughter, his patience, kindness and very early morning lessons, the lady who allowed us to come straight back to her instead of falling into the queue for the 3rd time, and Regan, whom I could only afford to pay to remove building rubble, but then he thought it's his day to be kind and then cleaned the other side of the yard beautifully and loaded all the garden refuse as well, without charging extra. I hope the ice cold drinks helped after that back-breaking work in the heat. Guys, you know, I'm a strange old cat. I'm not very good at receiving gifts, kindnesses or compliments. I never quite know how to effectively show my appreciation. I've never been the yelling, jumping up and down, excited type, and although I'm never shy to say thank you, I sometimes feel it's not good enough. So instead of walking around feeling guilty, I always try to pay it forward, like feeding the township dogs or donating something from our home which we have not used in a long time to a good cause. If nothing else, it makes me feel better. So that is what I did yesterday and why I wasn't on here. I actually still have 2 old blankets in the car. I will go buy a bag of dog food and kitty food on Monday and take it to the pound. And no, my dears, I am no angel. I'm doing this basically for myself. It makes me feel worthwhile, as if I earn the right to breathe the same air as anyone else. Anyway guys, I'll do another video on the Royals. I told you that this year will be a year of discovery, trying to lower stress and agitation. So in light of that, I want to sometimes talk to you and get your input on other things which matters to me and may even matter to you. So I want to take a moment and acknowledge the crash in Washington, D.C., where a military helicopter and an American Airlines plane crashed into each other mid-air. Of the 60 passengers, 4 crew and 3 soldiers on the helicopter, none survived. It is one of the strangest crashes I have ever heard of. But from what I hear and read, it appears to be a plain and simple accident. Call it human error, and face it, we all make mistakes. Sometimes, sadly, those mistakes can hurt others. It is really, really a very, very tragic event. The loss of 67 lives whose value could never be fully determined, as some of them were still very young. And lastly, also the loss of 2 expensive pieces of equipment. Honestly, my condolences goes out to the friends and families of all the victims. Having said that, I also heard about the Philadelphia plane crash. Horrific. I watched the videos and it is just impossible to say or even speculate as to what happened. The plane literally just fell out of the sky and looked like it caught fire before it even hit the ground. All 6 people, including a young patient and one of her parents, have died. It is terribly sad, and I'm rather curious as to what caused that particular crash. At this time, we do not yet know the size of the damage on the ground. Were there any fatalities on the ground, injuries, and what the extent of that may be? However, it is obvious that there is rather extensive damage on the ground to buildings and cars, as it was equally obvious that the tank filled with jet fuel somehow exploded and caused a number of fires to break out. What makes it even worse is that the young patient had just completed a round of life-saving treatment and was on her way home. How sad is that? Now, I had a look at the FAA website and I find something rather strange. Please listen to this. On the 31st of January 2025, the Learjet S5 crashed in Philadelphia. I mean, we just spoke about that and we are awaiting further updates. January 30th, an Aviation S2B crashed in an open field in Vero Beach, Florida, with only the pilot on board. January 29th, the PSA Airlines Bombardier CRJ-700 regional jet collided mid-air with a Sikorsky H-60 helicopter. We spoke about that. Also, on Wednesday, January 29th, a Cirrus SR-22 crashed near Santa Barbara Municipal Airport at around 2:15. 2 people were on board and there were some serious injuries. January 23rd, a Cessna 172 crashed in a field in Columbia, California at about 3:15 p.m. 2 people on board. January 19th, a single-engine Piper PA-32 crashed 45 miles north of Tonopah, Nevada, with only the pilot on board. January 19th, a single-engine Montier MC-01 experimental aircraft lost power after takeoff and crashed in Florida at around 2:20 p.m. with only the pilot on board, and unfortunately the pilot didn't make it. January 16th, a single-engine Piper PA-24 crashed near Bentonville Municipal Airport at around 4 p.m. with 2 people on board, 1 injured. January 16th, the landing gear of a Glass Air 2 collapsed while landing at Gillespie Airport. January 14th, the landing gear of a single-engine Piper PA-28 collapsed during takeoff at Addison Airport in Texas. Only the pilot was on board. I don't see any injuries or anything else reported. January 14th, a Quad City Challenger 2 crashed into a barn in Conway, South Carolina. 2 people were on board. Injuries reported. January 10th, a single-engine Piper PA-28 crashed at Plum Airport in Newburyport, Massachusetts. Injuries reported. January 6th, a single-engine Cessna 150 crashed in a residential area near Temple City, California. 2 people were on board, only slight injuries. January the 3rd, a single-engine Cirrus SR-22 crashed into a tree while departing from Lubbock Executive Airport with 2 people on board. only injuries reported. A Piper PA-32R was reported missing after departing North Las Vegas Airport on January the 2nd, and I can't find any updates. January the 2nd, a Vans RV-10 crashed in Fullerton at around 2:15 p.m. with 2 people on board, both deceased, and 19 people on the ground injured. A Robinson R-44 helicopter crashed during liftoff at Galveston, Texas at about 12:30 p.m. on December the 31st, with only the pilot on board and minor injuries reported. Now I have to ask you, is this normal, guys? I didn't even list all the near mishaps and minor crashes, etc. I did not include those with no deaths, no injuries, no damage, or where a plane had a mishap but managed to land safely. Those I did not even include in the list, and there are a lot of those. So again, I'm asking, is this normal for the United States? Looking back, it appears that these more frequent crashes and mishaps started escalating, particularly from June, July 2024. Or did I just not go back far enough? I read somewhere that 2021 was a particularly bad year for aviation incidents and accidents in the United States. So is there a pattern? Are pilots getting their licenses too easily these days, or had the number of private aircraft increased? Now, this will sound crazy to you. Why on earth would Bookie be interested in big and small plane crashes with deaths, injuries, and even no damage at all? I mean, from royals to aviation, it does not make sense. Well, if you're one of those who believe that the royals are insect or locust type aliens or can turn into human-sized praying mantises, then maybe it will make sense to you. Now look, I'm only joking, but seriously folks, I'm swallowing very hard at the Trump administration's explanation about these mysterious drones over New Jersey and elsewhere. According to the Trump administration, the mystery drones were authorized to be flown by the Federal Aviation Administration, or then the FAA, for, and I quote, research and various other reasons. Now, I'm sorry, that's not good enough as far as I'm concerned. Yes, I understand that as the situation escalated, people, citizens, the police, and so forth, sent their drones into the sky, and obviously this increased the sightings and escalated the number of things in the sky. But to say what they said and think the world should just say, oh, okay, is totally ridiculous. These things or drones hovered over people's homes, flew over schools, play parks, parking lots, 100% invasion of people's lives and privacy. Don't you think people deserve to know what research they were doing and what the so-called other reasons are? Do you think it's okay for the government, FAA or whoever, to just hover over our roofs and maybe even poking through our windows without any reason or explanation? Well, it's not okay in my book, not even a little. Remember a police officer returning to his station and telling everybody that he saw about 50 drones coming off the ocean. Other police or the Coast Guard, I can't remember exactly, went out there, came back and said they counted 13. Other people, even YouTube creators, hired boats and went out there and saw groups of drones approaching land from the ocean. So many people saw it with their own eyes. So many people recorded video of it. In the months that passed, hundreds, thousands of people saw these so-called drones hover in place or circling or flying up and down over the same spot for hours on end. So tell us about this new technology, President Trump, which can keep a drone in the air for 8 or more hours. What about the few drones, and I'm saying that in inverted commas, which fell? Since when does the United States build such big and funny shaped drones? What about the footage which looks like the drones dropping something towards land? What were they dropping? I think the people need to know whether whatever they dropped is safe and not hazardous. What about the footage which looked like the craft, well, it looked like a plane and a drone, shooting at each other? What about the orbs, those strange things darting through the sky and sometimes reacting to a person talking? There are so many questions. Where did the drones come from and where did they return to? Law enforcement tried following them, and so far no one has been able to determine where they went or where they, the drones, came from. No, President Trump, to tell us they were authorized by the FAA did not give us any answers. Maybe it's time people are told the truth for a change. How refreshing that would be. I mean, just imagine. Okay, so that is why I looked at aircraft accidents in an effort to determine whether something is different in our skies. And I'm still counting, doing stats and graphs, etc., etc. What I have is not yet enough. So hang in there and we'll see what conclusion I can possibly get to, if any. Okay guys, so I'll be back. At the moment I fear that we may be curbed or even silenced in what we have to say and share, although it may appear as if they are relaxing the subject matter we may address and the type of language used, but it appears as if there are now other approaches in getting us in line, and that is by telling us what to think and believe. And frankly guys, I don't like it. But let's leave that topic for a while. I'll be back with royal news shortly. Okay guys, so until that happens, please take good care of yourselves. Bye.